And welcome to I Protest. This is Donald Jeffries coming to you from just outside the swamp infested Washington, D.C., as we do every Friday at this time, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. I have a special guest tonight that was delayed by a week because I had overlooked something I had to do last Friday. In case people were wondering where I was, I had to go to my niece's wedding, and I overlooked it because it was on a Friday, and I thought it was a weird day for that. So anyhow, better late than never. So Patrick Wood is somebody that I heard a lot about, and I'm very impressed with his resume. He's editor in chief of Technocracy News. He's a critical expert on sustainable development, green economy, Agenda 21, 2030 Agenda, historic technocracy. He's the author of Technocracy Rising, the Trojan Horse of Global Transformation, and co-author of Trilaterals over Washington Volumes 1 and 2 with the late Anthony C. Sutton. And that's something I definitely want to delve into. Anthony Sutton was very instrumental in my own research as a young man. I used a lot of stuff from Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution and Wall Street and FDR, especially for my book, American Memory Hole. And Peter Seacox, who's hopefully listening, great researcher, he ferreted out a lot of that for me. So, Patrick, welcome to the show. Can you hear me, Patrick?
I can now. I got a glitch.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Glad to be with you, and we'll have an interesting conversation, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So you go back a ways, obviously. So tell me how I always ask everybody because I'm unlike a lot of people. I never had an epiphany. I've been a radical my entire life, pretty much. There was a moment that I was awake. I was always awake to some degree.
Yeah.
How about you? Were you a normal person that suddenly they had an epiphany at some point and entered these waters?
I probably wasn't. I can't hardly think back to those days in the 70s, especially when I got kind of woken up to what the Trilateral Commission was doing. But it was my good fortune to run into Anthony Sutton just after he was removed forcefully from Stanford University. He was working as a research fellow at the Hoover Institution for War, Peace, and Revolution at Stanford. And he decided he was going to, well, he ran across the Trilateral Commission. He says, I'm going to make a project out of this and find out who these people are, what are they doing, et cetera, et cetera. He didn't take into account that David Packard, the president of Stanford at that time, was a member of the Trilateral Commission. That was the end of his career. Unfortunately for him, it blindsided him. They basically threw him out. So I met him at a gold conference in New Orleans, purely by chance. That's the answer I give. My standard answer. It was divine appointment, in my opinion. But it was so unlikely to meet him at this conference, and this strange way that happened. So we both were studying the Trilateral Commission at that time. He was a senior scholar at that point. I was just snot-nosed kid, in my 30s, early 30s. I was writing financial reports for a brokerage company. So I was that was in my world, my economics background, my education. It gave me some sensitivity, sort of, but I didn't understand a lot of stuff. But he cleared it up for me, and within almost 30 minutes of meeting, we decided to write a newsletter on the Trilateral Commission, see if we could unpack it, and that we did. And so that became the basis of our 2 volumes of Trilaterals over Washington. And for me, that was off to the races for sure at that point.
Well, I certainly remember that book. The title's a great title. I don't think I have it. I had so many books back in those days, but I definitely remember it. So for the audience, and most of my audience probably knows, but there's younger ones too that might not have been there. But the Trilateral Commission basically came into to being it was instrumental in getting Jimmy Carter to the presidency. That's when we first heard of it. And he was one of, in 1976, they had a bunch of Democratic candidates running. And Carter was this obscure farmer from Georgia. and he was kind of instantly elevated to front runner status. And David Rockefeller was instrumental in the Trilateral Commission. So explain what the Trilateral Commission was and how it burst up on the scene about the same time there.
The dilemma that they had apparently was that before 1973, and they expressed this in writing, they were disappointed that their what they call their frontal approaches to globalization had not worked out. And so the idea of the Trilateral Commission, and this was brought up by Brzezinski, we need to do an end run around national sovereignty, an end run. So there was the frontal assaults before 1973. Now there's a more subtle end run around national sovereignty. And what they started out with was to create a new international economic order. That was always their purpose in the first place. All the attempts to unify the world have all been based on economics some way or another. But they said, what we're going to do, we're going to add to the mix now. We're going to create a new international economic order. That was their phrase, that NIEO, all over their literature at that time. And so Brzezinski was a professor at Columbia University at that point. He wrote a book that endeared him to David Rockefeller. The name of the book was Between Two Ages, America's Role in the Technotronic Era. He didn't use the word technocratic. He should, but he used the word technotronic. As a professor at Columbia University, he was well aware that the technocracy movement had started in 1932 at the Columbia University's campus. And, he's well aware of the professors, that most of them were still alive in 1968. So anyway, it was off to the races. He wrote a book basically saying, well, national sovereignty is over. We have to have a constitutional convention. We get rid of all this other stuff, and we're going to off to the races. We're going to create this technotronic era in the future. So David Rockefeller got together with him. That's how they founded the Trilateral Commission. They went to Europe to attend the Bilderberg meeting in 1972, late 72. They bounced the whole idea off them, that whole group, and they came away, basically, they said, well, you go do that and we'll be right behind you, sort of thing. So they did. And within 9 months of formation, the United Nations, which has always been close to the Rockefeller family in the first place, the United Nations published their General Resolution 3201, I think it was, on the formation of a new international economic order. Same phrase, same. They didn't attribute it to David Rockefeller, but obviously it was the same thing. That kind of was the beginning of contagion to the whole world at that point. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to pass it through the United Nations, because the United Nations global. It was global in scope, and they could do that. Taking over the Carter administration wasn't about politics. We all thought at that time, well, it is politics. Somehow this cabal got together and they're taking over our government. What are they doing? And but these people, we debated them several times, and they always said, we're not interested in politics. So why do you have all these people in the cabinet, for instance, at this point? And Jimmy Carter's a member, and Walter Mondale's a member, and Zbigniew Brzezinski's a member, and all these other people. Well, looking back, we know what they were intending to do was to take over the economic engine of the world. That was the United States. There was no other power in the world that could deliver that to them. So they took over basically the economic engine of the world, and they reformed it step by step by step ever since, with kind of they haven't been in it so much in this limelight for, say, 40 years now. Mm-hmm. But from that first incursion into government, it was a clean sweep for them, because it came away with every significant position affecting world trade thereafter, like the presidents of the World Banks, the bank. Most were members of the Trilateral Commission. The U.S. Trade Representative, that position is important for global trade. Most of them were members of the Trilateral Commission as well, and the list goes on. So at this point, we look back and see, well, they got a hold of the economic engine of the world. What have they done with it? Well, for one thing, they brought China in the fold. Brzezinski did that single-handedly during the Carter administration. And when he brought Chairman Deng to Washington, D.C., he wined him, dined him, and welcomed him into the fold of the world. And, well, it was history, I guess, at that point. He didn't teach him capitalism. He didn't teach them free market economics. He taught them technocracy, basically. And so China has morphed into a technocracy since then. Even by 1999, 2000, it was widely recognized, among scholars at least, that China had morphed into a technocracy at that point in time. So today, what we're dealing with today is, in my opinion, the takeover of Washington, D.C. by all of these tech oligarchs. Most of them are billionaires, people like David Sachs, Mark Andreessen, Kratsius, Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce. By the way, Secretary of Commerce, you figure that's a pretty important position for anybody interested in economic systems, right? Well, he's one of the people leading the charge at this point for this new financial system that's being cooked up, privatized financial system that's being cooked up right now.
You mean digitalized currency or something else?
Well, the Fed got waved away by Trump with executive order when he came in office, and basically he said, well, everybody cheered that, well, hey, Trump is going to take the Fed and stick it to him, maybe get an audit, maybe put him out of business, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that was short-lived, because what happened after that was a new privatized system, including digital payment systems, but now including more than that, basically asset-based tokens as well. This new column of finance has been erected in this last 11 months now, with all the regulations surrounding it to make it work. And it's just about, at this point, I think, just to explode all over the world. But the basic feature is going to be the tokenization of all the assets of the world. That's a hard concept for anybody to understand. Even I can't understand it sometimes, but this is what they're talking about at this point. This is what Larry Fink, for instance, taught. He said this blatantly. We're gonna tokenize all the assets of the world. What do you mean, Larry? Oh, by the way, Larry Fink is a member of the Trilateral Commission. just saying. They're still with us, and they haven't lost their punch over the years either. So
what would you say the difference between the Trilateral Commission and the Council of Foreign Relations is? I mean, they're very, very similar. I think Council of Foreign Relations probably has a lot more members, but what would be the difference be, if any, between them?
Well, it's interesting that the CFR, you can have an application to join, for one. Not everybody gets it, but it gets accepted. But you have to go through the application process. The Trilateral Commission has no membership like that. You're tapped like a university. You wait for pledge week and you hope you get tapped.
Or society, you're tapped. Somebody has to nominate you.
Exactly. Yeah. So the Trilateral Commission was very exclusive in that sense, very focused. not self-selecting, but people were selected by the hand of Brzezinski and Rockefeller themselves. So what we found over time that the CFR, which has a board of directors, by the way, the board of directors of the CFR was dominated by at least 40% of the board was dominated by members of the Trilateral Commission. That tells you something, right? Who's in charge here?
Mhm.
And the longtime president of the CFR, he's not right now, but that was Joseph Nye, I believe it was. He was a member of the executive committee of the Trilateral Commission, one of the chief officers, if you will, of the Trilateral Commission. So you have to ask that when I look at the CFR, I see a kind of amorphous organization of a lot of people. Some should not be there at all. Others are really hardcore globalists. But that whole organization was taken over at that point by David Rockefeller for influence by the Trilateral Commission. And remember also the CFR has a long history with Rockefeller in the first place, right? That was kind of his organization in the first place.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it's not a stretch to understand that, well, the Trilateral Commission came along. They said, we're going to get this done, guys. You've tried this frontal assault for too long. We're going to get it done now. You listen to us, you get under our leadership, and we'll steer the boat now, so to speak.
Well, it's the because as you mentioned, David Rockefeller was kind of the head honcho at the Trilateral Commission. Rockefeller's back in those days, and that was. I'm sure you remember all this, but in the days before the internet, you had a bunch of these newsletters that were like you had like Don Bell reports, I think, and you had, of course, the Spotlight newspaper,
Yeah.
and you had oh God, what was the Duck Book?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that guy. Yeah,
yeah,
the
sure. But I don't. I mean, those were fascinating. But I was a lefty. I was a far left wing radical. So I started discovering this far right wing stuff. So I ate that stuff up. But the Rockefellers were one of the chief villains back in the days. You know, they talked about on the right wing. David Rockefeller and I don't know. Are there any Rockefellers around? Is Jay Rockefeller still in the Senate? I don't even, or is he retired? I don't even know. Who would be the Rockefeller?
He's pretty old now, but he's still alive for sure, and he's
Yeah,
influential.
yeah.
He's on all the boards of the Rockefeller Brother Fund.
Mhm.
You know, it's that sort of stuff. So he's still there.
No, so but I mean, there's no up and coming star, I guess, because the Rockefellers, for years they dominated things, and David lived to be 100 or whatever, and just like John D. Rockefeller, I guess, the original guy
Mhm.
who never let it be said his credo was competition is a sin. So for modern capitalism, what does that tell you? But
Exactly. Exactly. The problem that Rockefeller had in the early days as a banker, he was a chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank. So he was rolling the money. Obviously, he's one of the major banks of the world, and he saw the end of money clearly. That was just after gold had been decoupled from the dollar, and all of his assets were in dollars at that point. So he can understand. Well, I can get all this money together, but if it's not worth anything, I'm just out of the game. So in his mind, and we see this consistently, methodically over the years, in his mind, he needed to convert his wealth into resources directly rather than just holding on to money. And so the push to accumulate resources into a global common trust, for instance, that was very appealing to him to take a property away from us and from the nation states as well of the world. And this has been exactly what's happened over the last 50 years. A massive amount of real estate has been swiped, if you will, by these people, the globalists, whether it's United Nations or some other NGOs or whatever. They've been so active. And I saw one thing, gosh, I saw a statistic that compared the size of India, where all these resources now have been subverted into private hands, basically. So that's a lot of global real estate, right?
Well, we hear it in terms of real estate in this country. We hear a lot of the the really awful things that BlackRock is doing, buying up these properties and causing it to make it even harder for people to buy homes.
Yeah.
And becomes is or were they associated in any way with what you're talking about?
Absolutely, absolutely. And remember, Larry Fink is a member of the Trilateral Commission. He's one of these people who's been on board with us for a long, long time. And uh, the consolidation is going on in our country. But it's just not our country. It's all over the world at this point. In our country, we see people like uh, BlackRock, State Street, and other large wealth funds. They have so much cash, and they're converting the cash into resources by going around and buying up uh, houses across the country, even whole neighborhoods across the country.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, Arizona, here where I'm from, you have when a subdivision gets started, you'll see BlackRock will step up and say, we'd like to buy a whole block of your subdivision, whatever that might be, a square mile or something like that. We want to have the whole thing under our control for rental purposes. And so they negotiate a wholesale deal to get the houses cheaply, more than you're going to pay in any case. And so there you go. And this is totally screw the market up all over the world, all over the country at this point for entry level homes. There aren't any at this point. It's very disturbing.
No, I'm still a licensed realtor. I've had my license since 1985, and I still. In fact, our friend Vince Agnelli, I'll be doing some business with him. He's in the chat room next month. Looking forward to working with him. But it's sad, because I as you said, the rental and nobody, of course, nobody in real estate talks about it because it kind of delves into conspiratorial waters. But
Mm.
uh, this is a disastrous impact, and I to me, if I don't know why some leftist politician doesn't recognize that and come up with a populist type thing. Well, let's put a cap on investment properties that no one individual or entity can have maybe one or two investment properties. What would that do to BlackRock? Imagine that.
I know, and we can dream.
Yeah, kind of a what do you
Point.
call it? Kind of an antitrust thing, really. I mean, at this point, we need to do some antitrust stuff on real estate with BlackRock and other investors.
You would think I would be totally in favor of that. And Larry Fink, by the way, has just recently taken Klaus Schwab's position as the co-head of the World Economic Forum. So this is not just the United States; this is a global issue at this point, and that was all in their view in the first place. The new international economic order. Well, now Fink has captured America, if you will. Well, he's in process of it, and he's also looking to capture more of the world as well. Hmm.
I wanna get this. Can you see that question on the screen from Karen
Yeah.
Carpenter, who's a big fan of yours? Do you see that
Okay, cool.
question?
Let's see. Research president in a White House ballroom is actually also a data center. I've heard that. I don't know it's
Mhm.
true. That I haven't seen the digging going on, like the big earth machines. Somebody's have to haul that out to make it happen. But that's an interesting concept for sure.
Well,
Maybe.
something is odd about it because I mean, from what I understand, the ballroom is bigger than the rest of the White House or something? It's like,
Well, it
what
is.
what
It is, I know, and this theme started with Larry Ellison, I think it was, who somewhere, and I don't know where this happened, but somewhere in Israel, Larry Ellison had built a data center underground, and who knows why. I mean, that's must be expensive, but, real estate is really expensive in the first place in Israel, so maybe going down was the thing to do. But, that kinda sparked, a furor. Maybe Larry Ellison is behind this one as well with the White House. Well,
yeah.
he's one of the people that are supporting the concept, but it's not exclusively his project.
Well, Larry Ellison going from Oracle, and he's taking control of CBS News and TikTok.
Yes.
So again, here's where are the trust busters? I mean, somebody somebody say we got to stop this kind of consolidation of power. But obviously that plays into, and I want to talk to a little bit about what you because obviously it's Technocracy News is your website. What when you say technocracy, because I get confused with all these terms. A lot of times, I know we're not a democracy and we're not a constitutional republic as we're supposed to be. There's no question about that. But what are we? Are we an oligarchy? Are we a plutocracy? But are we a technocracy? What define the difference between something like an oligarchy and what would a technocracy be?
Well, let me give you the definition first off of what technocracy is from the 1930s, and this was an official definition by them in that day. And technocracy was started in 1932 at Columbia University, as I said earlier, and um, these were scientists and engineers that got together, and this was in the heat of the Depression. It was a horrible time for America. Everybody hated the politicians as well at that time, kind of like now. But uh, I just say that tongue in cheek, well, there's some similarities here. But these technocrats got together at Columbia University, and they modeled a brand new economic system based on um, on energy consumption and uh, other things. I'm going to read the definition to you here. Um, but in the history of the world, there's never been another alternative economic system developed. Period. I've researched this 6 ways to Sunday. There's never been on intentionally an economic system modeled from scratch. Technocracy did. That's why I concluded in the first place that the new international economic order meant new. It didn't mean over easy or, rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. No, it meant new. So technocracy is a new economic system. It is an economic system, not a political system. You'll see this in the definition that I'm going to read you here. This is what it said, and they in their magazine called the Technocrat magazine in 1937. Technocracy is a science of social engineering. That was point number one. The scientific operation of the entire social mechanism to produce and distribute goods and services to the entire population. For the first time in human history, it'll be done as a scientific, technical engineering problem. Now it goes on. There's a next phrase here, or whatever chapter. The next quote here goes: "There will be no place for politics, politicians, finance or financiers, rackets or racketeers. Technocracy will distribute by means of a certificate of distribution available to every citizen from birth to death." Now, I'll unpack with this for you. These people, these engineers and scientists were very good at making machines, and they were experts at that. But what they couldn't do, they could not control the people that will run those machines. That's why they come up with this whole nonsense of the science of social engineering. That was kind of left over basically from scientism in the early 1800s. But they said, well, if we can't control the people that are going to run our machines, we're out of luck. So they've been focusing on the science of social engineering ever since. However, it's really important to note here, they wanted to do away with all political systems at that point. They wanted to get rid of all the politicians in Washington, D.C. They wanted to get rid of all the finance as well. They wanted to wipe out the dollar, and they wanted everything to be accounted with energy script. That's what they called it in that day. So energy script will be given to people like a universal basic income. You couldn't roll them over if you saved some up for 1 month or period. You can't roll them over into the next period, so you can't save any money. So you're just living at their whatever, their pleasure, if you will. So they also specified that all the property and society would be owned by the technate. That would be them in particular. Everything is a global common trust, just like we're facing today. Well, okay, what this meant, the end of private property for one, the end of the political system for two, and everybody would be on universal basic income, basically words of the state. But there's no state. At that point, there's no state because all the politicians have been dismissed at that point. And if anybody thinks that this is I'm smoking dope here or something, there was a book written by a technocrat in 1930 33, published book. I have a copy of it. It's a rare book where they appealed to FDR, who was just being elected. They appealed to FDR to declare himself dictator, to summarily dismiss all of Congress and appoint technocrats top to bottom to run the country. If they had their way, FDR didn't take him up, by the way. He was smart in that sense. He would have been the first to got shot probably if he did that. But this has been their mindset for almost 100 years at this point. You see all the vestiges of that today, like all this talk about the universal basic income, energy consumption and production, and limiting people with the energy that they consume. All this stuff, that you see all the angst against the politicians, for instance, in Washington, D.C. right now. Our politicians are getting neutered while the technocrats in Washington are taking away their power and basically running away with our whole system of operation. And if they could do it at this point, they would do the same thing that they wanted to do in 1932, was to basically wipe out all finance and all political systems. This would be the end of America. Obviously, there would be no way that we could call ourselves America at that point. I don't know what you'd call it, the land of technocrats. I don't know, but it wouldn't be America.
No, and I think what I fear the most is the social credit score that like China has, and digitalized currency or anything like that, where you can tie an individual's ability to get their hands on their own money with something else, their beliefs. And we're already seeing this. We don't have a social credit score yet, but how many people, especially on the right wing, have had their bank accounts canceled? And we saw it in Canada, where Trudeau came and he just froze the bank accounts of all the Canadian truckers, like my good friend R.B. Ham, who I hope to see in the chat room, who was courageous up there. And I think they fined him like $50,000. He's still trying to raise money to pay that off. And that's just unconscionable. Now, I really fear that, because anybody listening to the show, certainly me and you and Tony and everybody else, we would already start out with an incredibly low social credit score, and anything we said or wrote would limit our ability to get our own money. So, such a thing possible. To me, that should be the people, as dumb as they are. They should recognize how dangerous that is. But maybe I just don't. I underestimated how dumb it is at this point.
Yeah. A lot of people, they look at China and what's happening in Canada, Europe even. People will talk about totalitarianism. And that's a convenient way, I think, to express, well, if it's not socialism, it's not communism, maybe it's totalitarianism. But I want to throw out the idea to you: it's not totalitarianism in the way that you think it is, because in a totalitarian system, there has to be an accumulation of people together on the same page in the first place. The object of the control has to be for a mass of people, like the whole country, the society, whatever. What's happening today is not, and it's not that. It's not the takeover of a mass of people to control them, but what they're doing is they're slicing and dicing society apart, where now they're able to control you personally without respect of all the people standing with you. Now they have the ability to control every single person individually. this is not totalitarianism. This is a level way beyond that at this point. It reminds me of the movie The Matrix in
Mhm. Yep.
1990, what,
90
1998,
9 and
something.
8, 88,
Yeah.
99, something, yeah, yeah.
This is what happened in that movie. What all the people thought they were living a normal life, but their bodies were encased into this energy harvesting system where they were in a cocoon, if you will, and their bodies were being sucked, out, the energy sucked out of them to fuel the computer, if you will. Well, so what happened? The people in society, they weren't. There's no way that they could protest because they were all individually controlled. They thought reality was their reality was all there was, but they were fooled. The term that the movie uses is the simulacra was formed, where people didn't have any ties to their former life. And this is kind of what technocracy is doing with this today, especially with AI, because AI is now able to divide and conquer us on an individual basis, not just as a mass of people, but on the individual basis at this point. This is so dangerous. It's so dystopian. You can't believe it. And but it's going to slip. It's going to slip on. It's going to slip onto society, and they're not going to see it coming until it's too late. This is the problem.
Yeah, it's I mean, look how it's become part of our AI has become such a I mean, Grok and other and people use them all the time now. And I don't know, Jeff Rentz, I'm on his show every week, and he really talks a lot about this. I don't, but I had a guest recently that said AI was overrated. I don't know, but they're saying they may be able to build AI with an IQ of 5,000 or something incomprehensible. But, I mean, have they never watched any old science fiction movies? How does this always turn out? It's like it's just it's but is it possible that that AI could develop some kind of a conscience? Could AI just on its own recognize it's wrong? These people are evil, or is that even possible because they're being programmed by evil people?
Yeah, I know. In my opinion, there's never going to be a time when machines are sentient. That I cannot wrap my head around that at all. However, we see the big con at this point that it's going to happen. There will be a time in the future that AI will be sentient. Well, when would that be now? Well, they've been saying this for how many years now? It's gonna be sentient. You just wait. Wait for it, but it never appears. And my guess is in the future, more and more people will get drawn into the idea that it is already sentient towards them on an individual basis. And we see this all over the place now when people are interacting like with Chat GPT,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they report on social media, "Oh, I just, my AI bot or whatever, my companion bot, it's become sentient and it's talking to me just like a person." Well, more and more people are gonna adopt that lie, and in the end, it won't be sentient, but everybody thinks it is, like the movie, The Matrix, and just so
mm,
and it's gonna be crazy that the machines at this point are trying to take over the world. There's no doubt about it. This is when people talk about, well, I use it for research, or I use it for term papers or whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever the consumer orientation is towards ChatGPT, for instance, it's never been about us. It's never been about serving humanity in any way. It's always
no,
been about control. The control that they want to implement is based on these humongous data centers they're putting all over the world, or
yeah,
at least in our country. And what you're going to see in the end is all of the data of the world is being gobbled up the Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies, Internet of everything, you name it, it's being sucked in. All the information in the stock market, all the financial transactions in the world, all of this is going to be sucked into AI if it's not already. All of our records in Washington, D.C. are always been sucked in already to this system. Well, this system of control has nothing to do whatsoever to how they service us as consumers out here. You open your window and you type a question in, you get an answer. You think, AI is really cool. It gave me an answer. I didn't know what it was before. Well, okay, you're being lulled into a false security
Right.
that AI is about you. It's not about you at all, other than it's going to control you like down to the gnat's whisker before this whole thing is done.
Well, what's the rationale though? Because I always have a hard time understanding because the people that rule us, whoever they are, at the highest level, the Illuminati, whatever they are, somebody's manipulating and controlling things. It's random, but they obviously want AI. So is it like Alex Jones says? Because these people don't believe in God, so they want to achieve immortality by merging with AI. Is it? I mean, how can they? Are they like mad scientist types that they think they can control something that would have a much higher IQ than them? Or they can just I don't understand why they would want something that could conceivably turn on them like Frankenstein's monster.
You would think so. You would think so, but I think this is very, very carefully orchestrated thing by a small number of people. By the way, this is not all of Silicon Valley doing this at this point. So when you consider the tech bros in Washington D.C., for instance, the Larry Ellisons, the Mark Zuckerbergs now, Bezos and Kratsius and all these type of people, all of these people in Washington, D.C. that showed up to the party, all of them are on board with this new philosophy called the Dark Enlightenment. This is not everybody in Silicon Valley believe this philosophy, but many people do. The Dark Enlightenment is an otherworldly, anti-American, anti-human philosophy that basically says we're going to control everything, and we're going to completely flip the country out of its political system, out of its economic system, and out of its social system. That's the three pillars of society. And at this point, nobody has analyzed what this dark enlightenment is all about. And nobody saw it coming either. Nobody had a clue what that was before the election. And I guarantee you, I've asked a lot of people along the way, did you ever hear about the dark enlightenment? Did you hear his stories or anything about it? No, don't have a clue. What is it anyway? People ask. Well, this is the most evil, twisted philosophy in the world at this point, in my opinion. And it's all based on technocracy in the first place. Now they've made it into a philosophy so that it could be better sold to people or capture people, if you will, mentally to get on board with it. But it's the same nonsense that came out of the 1930s with technocracy in the first place. It was too radical back then for people. They couldn't get their head around it because it's just too hard to accept. But today, they've succeeded on salting the mental population, with this nonsense of the dark enlightenment, where they're saying, and this is the honest truth. This is what they're saying is that we need to have a monarchy in America. We need to get rid of the president. Forget that. We need to have a CEO, somebody like Donald Trump, I'm sure. And we have to have a monarch to call the shots and say what goes. And we have to always have these technocrats running everything in society at that point under the leadership of that CEO. Like, for instance, Sam Altman runs OpenAI, right? You don't argue with him. You can't. If you cross him, it's off with your head. You're out of the business at that point. So, in addition, they're looking at creating a system where all the property and the technate, if you will, all the property will be transferred into the hands of the technate or the global common trust. Well, how is this different from technocracy from the 1930s? It isn't. That's my point. They've just warmed the whole thing over, repackaged it a little bit, called it now the Dark Enlightenment instead of, well, it was a technocratic enlightenment, I guess, in 1932. And they're repackaging this to sell this to the American people. But I at this point, any person that I've talked to about this, their eyeballs fall out of their head. They can't believe anybody says this stuff with a straight face. But these are the people in charge right now. These are the people that are running the country.
Well, do you think the people at the top, all these technocrats that you talk about, Larry Ellison and all the others, do you think that they they will be able to control all this artificial intelligence that they unleash, or will they fall victim to it? That's what I'm saying. Is this going to turn out like a movie where are they confident that somehow they can always pull the plug or something?
They seem to be confident that they at least can control the policy mechanisms that make AI work in the first place. Having said this, this is just to answer the idea. Well, is the Illuminati, for instance, is some group like Freemasons or something? What
Right, right.
controlling everything? Well, let me tell you, there's one global scholar out of Singapore. His name is Parag Khanna. He's a darling of the global elite. He's a brilliant guy. He really is like Brzezinski almost. I don't agree with anything he's ever said in his life, but nevertheless, he's a brilliant guy, and he's in demand to talk to all the people around the world who want this global system. He said in one of his books, profound statement. He said, "We're building this system of control. That we're building this globalizations and as a system." Not to be controlled by any dictator, but it's the system is the thing. The system is a thing. The system is the thing. The system is being created is the thing itself. So the system is being created today with AI. That's a reflection of what Kana said in the first place. The system is a thing. It's not that there's a global dictator. As a Christian, you might consider, well, if the system is being created, maybe there's somebody in the future, like the Antichrist, who would take over this whole system in the first place. Well, it just so happened that Peter Thiel, he's kind of the head architect of this thing in recent years. Peter Thiel has been going around giving private lectures on the Antichrist. You have to ask the question, why is he talking about the Antichrist all the time? Who cares anyway what Peter Thiel thinks in the first place? But why is he so incessant about talking about the Antichrist? Well, you can answer that question yourself. But Peter Thiel has some idea that the system he's making at this point may be something that could be turned into over control to the Antichrist at some point. Maybe. He's very vague about what he believes about, he's not a Christian for sure, but nevertheless, he's talking about the Antichrist all over the place.
Yeah, and I could any of these people be Christians? I don't think. But what would your old friend Anthony Sutton? What did he talk about? That did he foresee any of this? What would he think of this technocracy that you founded a website about?
Wow. I'm sure if Tony was alive right now, he'd only have 4 words to say to anybody. He says, "I told you so." I told you so, and you didn't listen to me when I told you so. And he'd sit down and shut up. But he would be, at this point, I'm sure he would be shocked out of his mind how fast it's gone, how fast it's moved forward. He died in 2002. He was, I think 74 maybe at the time, but relatively young, he could have made it probably,
Yeah.
be in his 90s right now.
You'd be like a G. Edward Griffin. G. Edward Griffin he's been on my show. He's still doing interviews.
Mhm,
Rich,
mhm.
Richard Jekyll Island. But so what? How does it? Because again, you come from that era, trilaterals over Washington, where at that time the theory was that the big fear was world government. What we're going to have a one world government, and that's everything, all the new world order and all that. That was the right. That's what they're taught. The trilateral commissions formed to do this, just as the CFR was, the yearly Bilderberg meetings, all that stuff. Um, United Nations, but this technocracy. It throws a whole new element into it because this is
Mhm.
something way beyond. I mean, we kind of already we have globalism, so I don't know what I used to tell people. I don't know that they need to make it official. I mean, this is a global. Look what happened, during the COVID. I mean, the entire world went along with it. So
Yeah.
what do you think is there a difference now? Because the goal we could see before, it was easier to see what the goal was, or at least the right wingers thought the goal was world government. That's what they want to do. They want to, enslave us with a one world government. We'll have no representation at all, and that'll be it. What is the goal here? Is what is the goal for the people? Or do they want to merge with AI? And what is the goal? They just obviously, I think they just want to create I guess, a servant class. And how does it meld with the eugenics notion, which I think that is very real, that they want lots of people to die. How does this all come together?
Wow. You're absolutely right. I'm gonna read you a short snippet here from, Curtis Yarvin. He's the guy philosopher that came up with the dark enlightenment.
Mhm.
Um, he wrote this in 2008, not too long ago. Um, he was talking about how can we get rid of, all these people, the useless eaters of the world. He said he wrote, the best humane alternative to genocide I can think of is not to liquidate the wards, either physically or metaphorically, but to virtualize them. Now, we're talking about the mass cull of population, right?
Mhm.
Um, and he talks about how to do that. A virtualized human is in permanent solitary confinement, waxed like a bee larva into a cell, which is sealed except for emergencies. This would drive him insane, except that that the cell contains an immersive virtual reality interface, which allows him to experience a rich, fulfilling life in a completely imaginary world. Just think about this. And does this smack of the Matrix a
Yeah,
little bit?
very much so.
I know. So this is one guy's idea on how benevolent, he called it benevolent genocide. Benevolent genocide. What is he talking? This guy is lunatic, a lunatic running loose in Washington D.C. or Silicon Valley, telling people this crap. We're gonna have a system of benevolent genocide. And by the way, this is for the people that they call what Henry Kissinger called them the useless eaters.
Yes, yes, yes.
But but at this point, what the AI leaders are calling them are the unemployables. They'll never have a job again because AI is going to displace them from the workforce, and they
Right,
have no way to get a job again once they're out of the system.
right.
And these are the benevolent genocide. I just okay, this is
That's quite the
crazy.
term. It's an Orwellian term, and we talk about universal basic income because I talk about this all the time. I'm actually not in favor of it, but nobody on the right is doing anything to prevent it. Tucker Carlson used to say that to all the guests that came on, the conservatives said, you've got to have an answer to the socialism. You have to have an answer to UBI. Your answer can't keep being be an entrepreneur. So nonsense like that where it's beyond the reach of most people. But I don't see anything that's going to stop UBI because I don't see any there. It's the reality between Trump just said we needed more H-1B visa workers. they're not stopping it. He said before that, Americans don't have talent and all this stuff. AI is going to take who knows how many jobs. How can we stop UBI?
You can't stop them from trying.
Yeah.
They'll talk about it until it's too late to do anything about it, probably. But if you take human labor out of the equation, all of society, by the way, forever, free market economics, even socialism and communism, is based on your contribution to society. If you have no contribution to society, that means your labor is not needed anymore. You can't be a labor producing person to do anything, even shovel a ditch,
Right.
Well, if that is taken out of our economic system, the economic system falls apart. Excuse me very much. The system is over at that point if you have no place for labor. And I don't care how much work that robots can do or AI can do. It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter how much work they can do because they cannot produce wealth on a mass case. They can't do it. And so the humans at the bottom of the pile at this point, the ones that get ejected out of the labor pool, they'll never have a tie back to that wealth that might be created by robots or AI. There's no way they're going to get a piece of that action, except perhaps a benevolent handout from somebody above. Who knows? The government, remember, the government is going to be out of operation at some point because the tech bros hate the government in the first place. So we can't trust the government in the future to be the benevolent somebody who's going to pass out all his money or tokens, whatever, to people on the street. So the system at this point, it seems to me, when it really hits the fan and people start getting laid off by the tens of thousands, and the realization hits them, nobody wants me anymore. I can't contribute any way in the future to human civilization. The whole system is going to be over at that point. And this is part of what they're trying to do. The part of the Dark Enlightenment philosophy has to do with this concept called accelerationism. Accelerationism means you move fast and break things, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to get your hands off technology, let it run wherever it wants to run. Trust us, they say it'll be good. They think maybe it'll kill us all, but by and large, it's going to be good. You'll see. But there's no way that the people of the world are going to benefit from all this stuff. They will be this class of the unemployables. They will be moved into the cell block, if you will, where they're going to have benevolent genocide.
That's quite the term there. And I think that I think family dysfunction. I write a lot about that too. I think that because of the propaganda that has all but destroyed families, that we don't have anything to fall back on. And so something like AI, especially the sex bots for the guys, and even the chat companions, whatever. I think you can like become friends with these things online, and they have personalities, and people are getting like addicted to them, and they may not have any other friends. With people being in isolation, men especially, the men and women are just they're not having sex or dating like they used to. They're certainly not starting families. They don't want kids. It kind of opens the door for that, doesn't it? Because I mean,
Really.
they can easily replace human beings.
Exactly right. You're exactly right. This is happening. It started with social media for sure,
Yes.
but now it's with AI on top of all of that. It's divide and conquered at this point. Nobody in general society They don't have or the people around them to practice with, if you will. So people are turning to AI as a substitute. Very dangerous. Very dangerous.
You see the question from Twisted Pistol on there? You think the abolition of the Federal Reserve will accelerate this philosophy?
They're in on it for sure. I mean, the Federal Reserve has been sidelined temporarily, but the Federal Reserve was always intended to be a payment system. That's all they were researching. That's all the central banks of the world. They've never done anything other than payment systems. At this point, what's being built by Trump et al. Is a payment system plus an asset tokenization system. The Fed could never do that. Never. So they said, well, forget the Fed. We're going to create this new column of finance system based on they say stable coins, but the most important part of it is the tokenization aspect of assets. So the Fed is still in the picture. They'll always be there to assume the payment system, but the big enchilada right now for the tech bros in Washington D.C. especially is to create this asset-based tokenization system that, for instance, Larry Fink talks about. We're gonna tokenize the whole world.
If you don't mind, Patrick, I every week I usually put a link in the chat room here, and people sometimes we get lots of people, sometimes I don't know, we're getting anybody that can come on and jump into the stream, and they can be on video or audio and ask questions if you're okay with that.
Now let's jump on it.
Okay, here we go. I'm putting it in here, guys. So we'd love to hear from you. You know, I love interacting with you. Also, the link is in the chat there. So come on and jump in, ask Patrick good questions, or ask me, or whatever you want. But before, again, just give us a working definition again of this dark enlightenment, so we know exactly what we're talking about here.
It's complicated for sure, just to express a philosophy in a few sentences. But basically, the gist of it is they want to replace the president with a monarch. That would be the death of the Constitution right there. And they want to replace the operation of the state, if you will, dismiss as many bureaucrats as they can, and basically take over the whole state by AI. And if not AI, there'd be a technocrat running everything, whatever. So beyond that, they talk about taking away all the property and the country, or the technate they called it, and turning that over to the state to run and mine the resources of, and make all the stuff that people will consume.
Boy, that's that would kill him. If you don't have private property anymore, boy, I want to get rid of private property taxes to get rid of private property, but they're on the way to doing that.
Well, this is exactly what they said in 1992 with the Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is horribly antithetic to property rights. Totally. People saw that back then. It's just a total abomination as far as property rights is concerned.
And for the vast majority of people, they have made it, again, from my real estate experience, I know real estate is based on working your way up, getting a starter home, then graduating, to single family or whatever, getting your dream home, maybe having investment property too. They've made that impossible for the vast majority of people because starter homes were too expensive for anybody but the top 20% or so of young people who are doing well. The 80% are struggling. They can't afford anything. But the top 20% are going to turn their nose up at those older starter homes. They want something better. So, so of course, these families of immigrants, about all you can do. Your friend Vince, LB Bruins, says, in your studies, have you ever run across the path of Patrick Moynihan?
I certainly know who he is. I never interacted with him at all. I'm not sure if he's still alive. He must be pretty old at this
No,
point.
no, no. He's been dead for a while. But I'm not sure what Vince is talking about. I know Moynihan mostly from the report he wrote in the mid '60s about Black America and how the destruction of the family with the fathers being out of the homes, which was very prophetic. I know a lot of Black people like Jason Whitlock quote that. I'm not sure, Vince, what you meant by. I'm assuming you mean Daniel Patrick Moynihan.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, and again, everybody, the link is in there, so we'd love to have you jump in. What do you think of some of the Twisted Pistol mentions Nick Fuentes in here, who seems to be almost pushing for a Catholic theocracy? What do you think? I mean, I think he's installed. I don't think he's legitimate. What are your thoughts on something like that?
There's a movement right now that probably is appealing to. They want to appeal to Christians to kind of
Yeah.
migrate over into this the idea that using the Bible as the law, if you will, to create a theocracy.
Mhm.
That would be, in my opinion, just as bad as the Taliban does with implementing Sharia law. We don't want that at all. But nevertheless, this is
No.
appealing to a lot of people, especially some people in Silicon Valley who have migrated into Catholicism. I don't know exactly how that happens, but they have. And the idea of creating a theocracy is appealing to them. I don't quite understand it, but this is not just a passing fad, if you will.
But we have Karen Carpenter has entered the chat. Karen, good to have you here. And,
Great to
you're on,
see you, Don. It's
Patrick.
nice to meet you, Patrick. I'm a huge fan. I've had Courtney Turner on our podcast 2 or 3 times over the years.
Right.
And I used recently I was in a little debate and I represented Team Human with a friend on a small podcast and about AI, and I used your quote from Curtis Yarvin about the most humane way to deal with the human population is to virtualize them. So I was wondering, one of the arguments that I hear quite often when I let my views be known about the danger of technocracy and the surveillance system, the AI, and just the transhuman agenda, etc. One of the arguments I hear is, oh, AI is just a tool. It's just a tool. It's what you make of it. And my personal feeling and looking through, delving into research of the past, for example, the television, that most of these technologies were always intended to be used as weapons. And that we've been slowly moving toward, as you mentioned, that technocracy was established in the 1930s. So I'm just wondering what your feelings are about the intentions and uses development of technology through DARPA and other sources, and what you might say to someone who says, oh, it's just, these things are all just tools. Don't worry about it. It's how you use it.
Yeah. This is the lie that's been spread far and wide by people like Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, and all the others as well. Anybody that in Washington, D.C., they talk about, well, it's a tool for this or that to run the government or, write emails or whatever. It's just a tool, just a tool. Trust me, it's just a tool. You don't have to worry about a tool. How can you be afraid of a tool? A tool won't kill you. But behind the scenes, the AI, as it's being developed, is never about being a tool for anybody. It's a control system. This is in their own literature. It's a control system that is capable of taking all of the data from society, including the people, rolling it up into one big ball of data, turning it over to some company like Palantir to make sense of the whole thing. And the whole purpose of it is to control the people from what it was collected from in the first place. This is the nature of data. This is a truism. This is not my idea of what it ought to be. This is a truism. When data is collected from any object, the only purpose of that data is to turn it around and control the object from which it was collected in the first place. So you consider on a massive scale, why do they have to have all this data on us and everything else in society, even down to your DNA and your sex habits or whatever? I mean, you name it. Everything is sucked in to AI at this point. It's learning as it goes. It understands us very perfectly well now. I think probably that we can say that. And in the end of it, it's built to control the whole society. And it was never about the tool aspect at all. I don't believe.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm curious what you think about the spiritual agenda, or removing the interaction with humanity. To me, a lot of the COVID measures were intended to start to isolate us more, make us more comfortable interacting with humans less. And to me, it's a spiritual battle. It seems fairly obvious to me. And as a younger person, I was more along Don's. Don and I have common background wise, as far as we were raised to be liberals. So I was a young liberal, and I really didn't want to grasp this extent of evil and the ill agendas that were afoot. But the older I get, the more I realize that truly there is evil that we're up against, and that this is also very much a spiritual battle, and also a battle for the human heart.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder your comments about that.
Yeah. I have a book, my latest book here that I wrote with Courtney, by the way, The Final Betrayal. Chapter 7 deals with the rise of state religion. This covers several aspects of what's going on vis-a-vis a state religion. I think it's rising right now. Part of it's based on New Age thinking and blended into AI. Another part of it is based on, loosely I say, Christianity, but it's appealing to the Christian base, if you will, to be involved. So religion is all of a sudden starting to play a major role in America. And it's when I say it's a state religion, that kind of harkens back to the revolutionary days, when there was one religion that ruled all. That was the Church of England, and that was part of the reason they wanted to get out of the England altogether. But it's you have to figure this has to happen because society is based on three pillars: the religious side, the economic side, and the political side. You have to have, it's a three-legged stool. You have to have both of them, or all three have to be kind of roughly in sync, or otherwise your stool will fall over. So you see this move towards a state religion right now. You also see a flipping of the economic system, and we see a flipping of the political system as well, all at the same time. All at the same time.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Do you see the online there? Twisted Pistol. Another question is this dark enlightenment. This whole thing, is this like where's the opposition going to come to this, or is it going to come from the left or the right to something like this?
I wish I could figure it out. I don't know.
Will there be an opposition at some point? There's a reason for the dialectic that play each other, the various parties off of one another and present a problem, reaction, solution, the old David Icke Hegelian dialect type thing. But at some point, when you have enough control, I think it was Frank Zappa said that at some point when your freedom is gone, they will roll up the stage and take the set off the stage, and you'll be left in your prison cell.
Yeah, they take the mask off at that point. What do you know about this? I guess this is Harlan asking. What are flock cameras? I've never heard of them. He sees them everywhere I go, even in the middle of nowhere. What are flock cameras? That's new.
I have several articles on technocracy.news in recent days on the flock cameras. You have to read them just to figure out what's going on. This is so egregious. Flock Flock Systems, I think it's called Flock Safety, was a company that was funded with money from Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, et cetera. This is a startup pop-up company that decided they want to have cameras all across the country to read license plates using AI and to track people's whereabouts. And at this point, they have over 43,000 cameras across the nation, and they're installing them as we speak. And this is crazy stuff. People don't understand that these Flock cameras are taking snapshots of the car to basically build a fingerprint for their car. You know, you have a fingerprint on yourself, but they build a fingerprint on your car, including the license plate. But all the features of your car, the dents, the bumper stickers, the stickers you have on your window, et cetera, the color of your car, the make, the model, all that stuff, that combines to make a fingerprint for you and your car. And people are squawking about this all over the place. Some cities have kicked them out. Other cities are taking them like crazy. Yeah, Flock cameras is sick.
I'm curious, do you see the smart meters? I live in California, and I believe Sacramento had cases where PG&E customers were upset about the police department using smart meter data to determine whether people were home or not, or that type of thing. And I'm wondering if you see the potential of smart water meters rolling in everywhere, so that our water usage will be so controlled and so expensive that not only will we be able to have some independence or self sustainability or community sustainability with growing food for ourselves, but that we may have just very basic water usage personally in order to allow more water for the data centers. So do you see smart water meters as a key to be used?
This is part of the control grid. Clearly, this has been building for, oh gosh, at least 15 years right now that I know of. Maybe longer. Actually, I'd say 20 years probably. But this whole business of controlling water, yeah, this big deal. And you know, even in rural communities where people have their own wells and stuff, the authorities are coming out and saying you have to install a meter on your well so we know how much water you take out of the aquifer. Oh boy, this is bad stuff. And in Phoenix, Arizona here, they've been installing Wi-Fi driven collection devices for the water consumed on your property.
Wow.
Wonderful. Again, guys, I'm put the link back in the chat here again. If I don't think Tony put it on Rumble today.
Yeah, I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
No, that's fine. I just like to have more people, but I don't know.
Yeah.
People were so excited when I started doing this, and then I guess the novelty's worn off. But if you're over on Twitter or watching on might be live stream. I don't know if I'm live streaming on Facebook or not, but if you're watching anywhere else, you can jump in the YouTube chat room and just you don't have to chat. Just you can the link is there, so you can jump on if you want to ask Patrick a question and join the discussion. This is fascinating stuff because it's coming at it from a little bit different perspective than we normally do. So, Patrick, what are your thoughts on this? What were your impressions of Donald Trump in the very beginning, and what he's kind of graduated to? I call him Trumpenstein, the Trumpenstein Project. I think he's an actor, but he's really turned dark now in the last few months, especially. This dark Trumpenstein, but dark enlightenment, dark Trumpenstein. What were your thoughts? Were you excited at first to hear some of his rhetoric in 2016? And what are your thoughts?
We saw all the signs in 2016 that he was tending towards the technocrat side of things. For instance, his promotion of, 5G, for instance, the shots as well with, You know, that we could see the signs there at this point. It wasn't in your face completely, but this time, many people voted for Trump only because they wouldn't vote for anybody else, like Harris or especially Biden. So that was out. But the American people, the MAGA movement at that point, whatever their expectations were, I'm sure they thought, well, maybe we can get a rollback on the border issues, maybe a rollback on the economic issues that Biden had created in the first place. Maybe we could get a rollback on egregious constitutional and law violations around the country. Censorship was another thing. And whatever people were thinking when they pull the lever, they don't have levers anymore, but when you mark the paper. Nobody had an idea what was going to happen when Trump took office. This is the whole point of the betrayal, my book, but the betrayal. This was not a question of broken promises. He didn't make any promises to do something, and he didn't keep those promises. This is a brand new thing, unprecedented, that's been leveraged on the whole of society. Nobody saw it coming. And these tech bros have swept in to Washington, D.C. to take their place on center stage. These were the same people two years earlier who were crucifying the public. Mind you, and so, these were not our friends at that point. But they came in with this otherworldly philosophy known as the Dark Enlightenment, and nobody has even a clue at this point what we're talking about. So many people are just clueless what this is all about. But these tech bros at this point, as a pack of people, they've embedded themselves top to bottom in our government, and their intent is to get rid of as many bureaucrats as they can. That was part of the Dark Enlightenment, where they talk about RAGE, Rage Doctrine. That's replace all government employees, I think. And who knew? This is a betrayal of everything we stand for in America. This is not making America great again.
No. And what happens, I've always said the question is what happens after Trump? Because you've got 70, 80 million people, however many people voted for Trump. It's a lot of people. They're awake to some degree or another. They put their faith in him, and most of them are probably disillusioned now. But what happens? Because those people they see the corruption. They know things are wrong. So where do they go? Because I don't think there's going to be another figure that's going to emerge like Trump. I think you're going to get the same stale Republicans that you did before. I mean, where do you think those? I don't think you can form another party because the system doesn't allow it, and Trump destroys it because everybody hates or loves him. And so, if you love Trump, you vote for Republicans. If you hate him, you vote for Democrats.
It's time for the benevolent dictator, Don. It's about time.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
It's like that. Well, White Wolf has entered the studio. What's up, White Wolf? How are you doing?
Okay. I wanted to ask Patrick Wood a few questions. He's aware of the Franklin scandal, right?
Are you aware of the Franklin credit scandal in Nebraska, the child sex scandal?
And all of that.
It's similar to Epstein. It was a previous scandal similar to Epstein.
Yeah, it goes back to the 80s, I think. 80s and 90s.
Are you familiar with the book Gold Warriors by the Seagraves? Have you ever read that one?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, well, my theory actually is that the Second World War was completely choreographed. All of the all of the politicians were basically just playing their roles, and all of the battles were choreographed in advance. I mean, the battles were certainly real, and people were dying, but they knew the outcome that they were working for, and the world and the war was basically a human engineering project in order to build the world that they wanted, the world that the banksters could then manipulate, which they started to in earnest after the war. And
Well, let's Patrick, what do you think? What do you think of that?
Well, I wouldn't identify it exactly this way, I don't think, but there's elements that I could probably see. We know how World War I as well as World War II were financed by the bankers in Washington, D.C., or not New York City, and the banking establishments around the world. Their hands were all over it. Anthony Sutton wrote extensively about this topic. I would probably defer to him for some things as well.
right, well, you believe, for example, that Roosevelt knew about Pearl Harbor in advance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was
Okay.
plenty of indication of that. Yes.
Yeah, well, I would go one step further and say that Roosevelt and the Japanese engineered Pearl Harbor together. And if you look at the attack, that seems to be the case, because the mini subs that the Japanese sent into the harbor seemed to be the signal to the U.S. Navy that the attack was coming. And then there was a certain lieutenant, I can't remember his name, in the radio hut that kept insisting that the oncoming planes were B-17 bombers coming in from San Francisco. And you have to wonder why they had those B-17 bombers flying all night long and really endangering those pilots.
Well,
It
that's
seems
you're
like
always
it was really to
you're
cause that type of confusion.
you're always
So that,
fascinating, and this fast, but I don't know how this fits in necessarily into the discussion. What are your thoughts on the technocracy? Because that's what we're discussing here. Basically, Wolf, do you see that happening? Do you see AI and everything? What do you think of the Dark Enlightenment?
well, yeah, I think it's all a part of the process. The technocracy is part of a bigger process, a bigger
White Wolf
overall controlled process
White
by
Wolf
these people.
is a Catholic scholar. He knows more about Catholicism than almost anybody. So I don't know what your thoughts on that, Patrick. What he said, what he talked about.
Well, there's nothing to add. I mean, okay, yeah.
Well, you talked about a theocracy.
Yeah.
And well, I wouldn't be in favor of a theocracy, because it would give too much direct power to the church and the priesthood, which, considering the corrupt state of the church today, that would definitely not be a good thing. The Catholic Church is certainly not run by saints today, by any stretch of the imagination. But is there ultimately a right or a wrong, or is that decided by some type of political system or majority of people?
No, there's no majority of anybody with technocracy. And
No,
these people,
I'm talking now philosophy, and as far as, are there absolute moral standards of right and wrong, independent of what people might think, and so on and so forth?
well, technocracy is totally immoral.
Well, I agree, but why is it immoral?
Because
What's the principle and foundation that makes technocracy immoral? I mean, what's wrong with everybody being happy as a clam in their own little cells? Ultimately,
So you're kind of promoting technocracy and the idea that we will
No,
all be
no,
happy.
I'm
and
not
well?
promoting technocracy. I'm just being the devil's advocate here,
Okay.
if you will.
Okay, Patrick, if you have a response, and we have Angry Tiger who has entered the stage as well. Angry Tiger, how you doing, buddy?
Greetings and salutations to one and all.
Yes, Angry Tiger. I was on with Angry Tiger. We were Team Humanity with some friends on a podcast
What was the
debating
other
about
team?
AI. So
Team AI. Was somebody actually defending AI?
yes, people we know and love
And
were
consummating
defending
with
AI.
it, rolling around with it in the grass, getting hot and sweaty with it. Horrible.
Wow, those sex dolls are getting realistic. I don't. So what's on your mind, Angry Tiger?
Well, you have a guy like Mr. Wood there, a very intelligent individual. I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to interview him, but you're giving me this chance to ask him a question. I asked all the very smart people. I asked Edward G. Griffin this. I asked Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, Gregory Manarino, all these smart people that are smarter than me. And I have this question for you, sir. You are aware of the banking cabal of the central banks, and there's the BRICS, and then we have the SWIFT. But everyone has a central bank. And here's my question for you. Are the eastern section, the eastern block, the BRICS block, okay, and the western block, the SWIFT block of central banks, are they in cahoots? What do you think?
Absolutely, positively. They have to be. They have to be. The central bank system is monolithic.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that answer, man. I mean, it was a simple answer. Everybody, you were the simplest and quickest one to say absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What Christian Pistol is talking about? What he's saying that Francisco Franco, who you know who he was in Saturday Night Live, Chevy Chase made him famous, and I said, why is he? Why do they keep saying he's still dead? And then I realized it's probably just a leftist trope or whatever. But he's saying that many on the far right love Spain's Franco, who was a technocrat back in his day, or is this not true? Is that true, Patrick?
You're talking about Franco from Chile?
From World War II, Franco, Franco from Spain during, World War II.
Okay. I don't know that he was a technocrat per se. I haven't studied him.
No, Franco was not a technocrat. There's no way.
And Franklin wasn't Franco very Catholic? WW?
Well, yeah, he was. At least on the surface. Although the Carlists were definitely more Catholic and more integralist than what he was, but
is that why Saturday Night Live hated him so much that they
Franco
ridiculed him
was essentially a socialist who tried to bring Catholic principles into socialism, and
that doesn't work.
He definitely stabilized Spain up through the 70s. No doubt about that.
Well, if you want to know like how Hollywood back then, again, I got these from the right back in the day when Patrick was working with Andy Sutton. I was reading lots of books that would talk about the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. People who read my books know I like to write about him a lot. But where Hollywood, pretty much everyone in Hollywood joined the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, which was the Crusaders fighting Franco. Who was and I think it's no mistake when, again, I didn't know who Francisco Franco was as a teenager or whatever, watching Chevy Chase open everything. In other news, General Francisco Franco is still dead. And I said, what is that? And people would kind of nervously laugh at it. I realized, well, this is this pro-Catholic guy who fought communists. I don't know, am I off there? But I just think that was kind of an inside Hollywood thing, as usual, kind of taking the commie side, I guess.
Yeah, well, George Orwell was on the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, if I recall. That's where he had his awakening.
That's true. One good guy. And at least, I love him. But yeah, that's true. He was.
But Franco fought the socialists and the communists who the communists were openly persecuting the church, that they were slaughtering priests on the streets. And they definitely were slaughtering Catholics and one of my heroes is Colonel Moscato of the Alcazar. He had the only good answer for communism and socialism: just fight to the death and never give in.
WW again. I just want to stop because I know you know a lot of this stuff in depth, but I want to keep kind of on what Patrick was talking about. Angry Tiger, and do you have any other questions for Patrick? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'll let you guys. I mean, here's another thing, I guess, that, and Karen and I are really concerned about this. I want to make sure that we're going to do the right thing going forward. I am going to shift over a little bit and start focusing my attention on AI, because I think that's possibly the greatest terra firma threat that we have directly in front of us. I'm extremely worried about this on not only a technical level, all right, and the stupid things that can happen with this. This is just a stupid idea, and the spiritual level, because what I've seen almost, and everyone here watches my podcast, they know I don't go into the esoteric. I'm not one of those people. This is extremely demonic, and I believe it's possessing people. I believe it's beguiling them and putting them under a spell. That's the only conclusion I can come to at this point. What do you think of that crazy statement?
I want to defer to my chapter 7, the rise of state religion, that explains it very succinctly how AI is dividing and conquering people on a one-to-one basis. And I can't go into it right now, but get the book and read it. That's all.
I'll give you that book for Christmas, Angry Tiger.
Just that statement, sir, is profound on a one-to-one basis. If you understand what you just said, and it's terrifying.
It is. Yes, it is. Because there was a time when the New Age was a thing in the 70s, 80s, where you had the gurus and whoever, somebody stood up and said, I'm for this. I'm going to go out on a limb like Shirley MacLaine did. A lot of people went out on the limb with her. At this point, the experience of New Age, for instance, has now been refined to you personally to have your own belief system with AI as your assistant. That means every single person that would buy into something as crazy as a New Age said in the first place, now they can all have their own experience. The problem is they can't even talk about their experience to anybody else because nobody else will understand them.
I agree. And this is one point something that I've kind of come to the conclusion that we're building our own personal matrix. If we aren't in a collective matrix, which we're headed that way, it will also be very individualized based on the data gathering and the algorithms and the AI interaction and the isolation that's been so carefully and painstakingly that we've been acclimated to this isolation and the game, as Courtney talks about so much, the game mentality.
Yeah.
Patrick, I got to the message that you have to go soon. Do you need to leave now? If I want to make sure you get to give out all your links.
I have another engagement. I got to get off. And
gotcha. Well, anything you want to close with? Anything you need to promote, or give out any links that you need to?
You know what? You know where my website is, technocracy.news. That's where everything is, and my books are available there. I have a Kindle version as well as a paperback on Amazon as well. And I have the audiobook will be published probably within 4 or 5 days from now. And that'll be available on Amazon as well. So there's lots of ways to consume our material at this point. This is not just about me selling books, believe me. This is existential stuff from America. And so I do really hope people would just get the idea, get several books, hand them out to people like water, and say, you read this and just, get back to me. What do you think? make book clubs if you can, even get people reading the book and consuming the material, maybe the Kindle version, the audiobook, whatever. And if we don't stand up to this monster soon, it's going to eat us alive. That's about the bottom line.
Absolutely. Patrick, I
Thanks for
appreciate
answering our
Patrick,
questions.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and I understand you got to go. So
Yeah.
we'll say goodbye. We still have about 20 minutes for us, you guys. Thanks again, Patrick. Take care.
You bet.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, see you later.
Take
Okay,
care and God
so-
bless.
Yeah, good thing I saw that in the private chat. Okay, guys. So I was going to ask him what ask you guys what it's kind of like the universal basic income. I don't know how you can avoid doing it when you're not giving young people, especially any other options. You've taken away all their opportunities. Eventually, they're going to take it. What other option do they have? But the same thing with AI. When you have these, I mean, I'm not even talking about sex dolls, but if they make them realistic enough, which it looks like they're going to, again, are you going to tell these lonely guys, especially that have no other companionship, if they can afford it, and even something like an AI friend, if they can make these people, again, there's so many lonely people out there. How are you going to stop people especially if it's free? If they can just click on it and say, okay, now I have a new friend. I mean, there was a movie, somebody made a movie about it about 5 years ago or something, where the guy fell in love with his AI friend or something. I can't remember what it was called, but I can see that happening. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, the loneliness has been manufactured. I mean, for the last 50 years, there's been a war against the family.
Right.
Absolutely. I think it goes back further than that. I think that we know social engineering comes out of Tavistock. The whole idea of the feminist movement with Gloria Steinem, et cetera, requiring two working partnership households to pay the bills, which of course increases the tax base, and then shaming stay-at-home moms. You're just a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Raising your children is by far the most important. It takes two, absolutely, a provider and someone to nurture the children. And my husband and I actually, we've flip-flopped. Sometimes I would work and sometimes he worked. So it doesn't have to be a certain gender that's making the living specifically, but I think there is there's definite need for the mom to be able to nurture the children, and dads can do that too. And then we see the music, even the use of social engineering in music. The prison culture, the hip hop and the rap culture, the drugs being introduced into various neighborhoods in order to increase the percentage of absentee fathers, so it's been a multi-pronged attack on us for so long to divide and conquer us this way. And then with COVID coming in, then you had the cell phone introduced in the mid 90s, around 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And then the selfie culture, the extent of narcissism that has been encouraged and is taking hold is really shocking to me. I always felt kind of strange taking a selfie because it was so narcissistic. But you see, posting everything they do online, we're feeding the data beast.
Yes, it really is.
They have us worshiping ourselves. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's where they wanted to get us to, first of all. And then second of all the things Karen just described, all of those techniques, all of that, every single step of being able to socially engineer us. Now, all of that has been crystallized into a form of mental destruction like we've never seen in AI. They have all of that she described in AI. They can do it all with AI, and it's devastating. And they are going to incorporate it in our lives like they've incorporated smartphones in our lives. I mean, you're getting to the point where if you don't have a smartphone and you're working and have a family and you're doing things in society, you can't function. I think we're 2 steps away from that. So they're going to jam this down our throats. Only here's the trick. We know this time what this is. The cell phones kind of snuck up on us, but we know what the AI is, and we need to stop it, damn it.
And it's up to us step by step, one action at a time. Every time I use cash, and I try to use cash as often as possible, I make some kind of comment about using cash. Yeah, I'm going to use cash. It's important that we use it so that we can keep it. I throw in things like that. And fairly often somebody will say, you know what, you're right about that. Or so I try to drop little seeds here and there because I think we're running out of time. If we don't do it now, we won't have the opportunity.
We should all be doing that. I do that. I'm giving small Austrian economics lessons in the line about cash. Karen, that's the way. But we all need to do that.
Yes.
With simple stuff that people understand, because they're not researchers and they don't sit there all day and research stuff. They're just normal people trying to live, and they don't know what's happening to them.
My daughter, 30s, and it's interesting though, but that she's an artist. She was always, I swear, I used to say she was born with a pack of crayons in her hand.
Mhm.
She's just a fantastic visual artist in so many ways, and that is what her degree is in. And she's ended up being a secretary in a truck repair center, and she's doing great, making great money. But she can see the danger of AI, and she's disgusted with it because she's a creative human being, and our creativity is one of the things that they are after here. Is that creative human spirit, that creativity that only flows from the human spirit. So that's another thing that's in danger. So that may be another way to make some inroads into helping some people understand what is at stake here.
Your soul.
And
The goal is your soul.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I meant to raise this with Patrick, didn't get a chance to, but what really frightens me about the AI thing is that what they can do with pictures and videos. They can make now when anything comes up, especially in the conspiracy world, you're never sure. The other side is just going to say it's fake no matter what. And just like again, Trump's fake news thing. And how do you know? I mean, I've seen videos of people. I remember seeing a speech, and this was probably 2 or 3 years ago, on Jimmy Kimmel, where they had Donald Trump looking just like Donald Trump, talking just like him, his lips synchronized, where he was saying I'm a lifetime criminal. I've done all these horrible things, and my favorite show is the Jimmy Kimmel show. And you can distinguish that from a fake, and they've gotten even better now with it. I'll see the things where they have, they'll have these famous people interacting and stuff. That's terrifying because they could take any of us and make a video of us confessing to something harmful or whatever, couldn't they? I mean, I think that's very dangerous. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure how far they can go really with all of this technology. I think they've gaslighted us a little bit as far as how good the facial recognition is and so on and so forth. I've always said that if the facial recognition was so good, that they would use it so you could find your lost dog. I mean, just take a picture of his face and they can go out there and scan all the dogs and get your dog back.
They don't care about helping us find our dog, though. That's not what they're in this for.
Well, I
I
understand
would
that,
definitely
but,
want.
I wish we could have E.M. Burlingame. I had him. He and I did. We didn't really get along that great when I had him on the show. I don't know, a month or two ago. I can't remember how it was. If people remember that, but he was talking about he doesn't. I don't. What was his premise? Does anybody who was listening remember that? He either said there was an AI or it's been greatly exaggerated. Something he really downplayed it, and he's the only person I've seen that has done that. So I'd love to have had him join the discussion, especially with Patrick, and try to explain, because most of us see a lot of great danger in it, but he seemed to think it was a big nothing. Is it any of you guys familiar with him? Did you catch that show?
It sounds familiar, and I know other people feel the same way. And even if AI wasn't so advanced or it couldn't think, quote unquote, think, just an advanced program that takes the place of, say, your doctor or your pharmacist or somebody that has some judgment, some empathy, who's willing to listen and spend that time with you and do some problem solving on their own, do some research and things on their own. So once you take that human component out, it doesn't really matter if it's a self-aware AI or an advanced AI, even if it's just a program. that's been programmed with certain parameters and information. I see that as very dangerous, because that's going to enforce an agenda, and whose agenda is it enforcing? So just losing that choice of who the human doctor or practitioner, alternative therapist, whoever you choose to see, we had some choices, and we could talk to a person, get a feeling for them, look at their reviews, look at their background. If all practitioners are AI practitioners, we're losing that individual choice and realm of freedom.
Well,
I would
think
have
the
to say
greatest
this.
danger is the web itself, because the more you're sucked into the web, the more you wonder, well, what's real and what's not. And so you have to keep grounded in reality. That's why it's good to get away from the web and get out there in reality and talk to real people and see what's really going on in your neighborhood, and so on and so forth.
No, that's definitely right. AI, AT, you were saying something too?
I would agree to a certain extent, but here's the thing. And this is with all due respect to all of us, right? We like to try to figure stuff out. And a lot of times we become arrogant. A lot of times we're not immune. We're not superhumans. We're all human beings. We'll fall for the trick of cognitive dissonance. Our brains will try to make us survive something because it's so outlandish to believe, even though it's true. So we're all susceptible to this. But when we start thinking about these kinds of things, this is an extremely dangerous thing. We're talking nonsense and minutia when we're worried about whether it's a computer and it can gather information.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, this thing, you ask, who is Don Jeffries? And in 30 seconds, I have a synopsis of you. What does that mean? That means that this computer, whatever you want to call it, okay, this thing was able to scrape the internet, all right, in less than a minute and find out all about you.
Right.
And that's what we can see. That's what we're allowed to see. So I don't like to say, oh, well, I don't think it's as advanced, and I'm not trying to disagree with you, White Wolf. I think it would be extreme folly not to take this as serious and as dangerous as possible. This is the most dangerous and serious thing that we have right now. If you don't believe in nuclear energy, this is like another A bomb. If you don't believe in that, but I'm just figuratively speaking.
I agree. It's not a matter of whether it's self-aware or how theoretically advanced or unadvanced it is. It's advanced enough. Either way, it's clearly a digital trap that we're in. A surveillance net, whether
That's
it's
like looking at the
self-aware or
tire
not.
size of the truck that just ran you over, talking about how that kind of stuff. Those impudent details. Excuse me, sorry. It irritates me because people say that. They'll sit there and tell me there's different levels of it, and you can't call everything AI. We know what we're talking about advanced AI. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about some wordsmith program.
Oh, and I think that again, the scary part is I mentioned with Patrick is that we in the conspiracy world, especially, we think I firmly believe there's some really evil, probably satanic conspirators on top of that run everything. This is a gigantic conspiracy. It's good versus evil, but I don't understand unless the people at the top have some kind of superpowers we don't know about. If they're unleashing this stuff, and it's as powerful as Jeff Rentz, my friend, talks about, they could be up a 5,000 IQ or something, and it keeps going up. Obviously, how can we mere mortals, where the top IQ is going to be 170 maybe or something, very few people. How can you control that? So why would they unleash that on the world? And because it doesn't exempt them unless they figure out a way to program. Then I don't understand how they can be that deluded that they don't fear it themselves. But they don't seem to. They seem hell bent on doing this. And are they just mad scientists, or is this maybe they have some kind of control over we can't figure out?
The same mentality when what did they do? They tested a nitrogen bomb, I think it was, in the atmosphere. And the scientific consensus was half was it won't do anything. The other half was, well, it could rip the atmosphere off and the whole planet could die. And they went ahead with that experiment, bro.
Look what's going on in the sky every day. that's the big
trust, yeah.
question. That is the big question. I do not know the answer, except that it's a spiritual battle, and they are not on our side.
Well, what
No,
I
they're
see
different.
is the apathy. I mean, most people look at the chemtrails and they don't even care. And
No, they don't. Well, they
look
think
at
you're
the
crazy to say they're
pandemic. I
there.
mean, the whole world fell for the pandemic, and that's when I basically gave up on the human race. I'm sorry, but I don't know what's going to happen. Our Lady of Fatima said the various nations will be annihilated, and I certainly believe that's in our future. It's going to be biblical what happens when it hits, and I
Well,
don't think
certainly a
we're
lot.
going to be able to stop it at this point.
Well,
Giving up on the
does,
human race is losing the spiritual war. That's what they want.
yeah. And I'm just wondering who is at this point, other than some of us in the alternative media, who's in opposition to AI? I mean, kind of people talk about, well, it could be, but I don't see anybody in the left or the right. I don't see anybody really, any big names anywhere that are saying, hey, this is pretty dangerous. I've watched a lot of movies and I, Robot and things like that. They basically backfire on us. What is there anybody out there that's even counseling caution here that again, I don't know how you stop it either, because if these things are really getting more intelligent, like Jeff Renn says, and if they're growing and developing, then who knows what they could do at that point. And that's why I said, but is it also possible? What do you all think about? Is it possible that they may develop some kind of morality and they may look and say, this is really screwed up what you're asking me to do. Is that possible for them to have a conscience? Maybe. I don't know if they get intelligent enough.
I think anything is possible. I'm not. I that I don't know. I don't know if that's if that would happen or not. But I don't think that we can give up. I think that there will be a backlash against this, and I think there already is. As I said, my daughter's mid-30s, and she's very much against AI. I don't know if she understands the implications of using her tap to pay on her phone. That's the way that this has been infiltrated and slowly into our lives in so many ways. And at this point, X itself is going to use all of our information to feed into the AI, and most of us here communicate on X. So what are we going to do? What are our alternatives? We definitely have learned a lot and gained some power and ability to spread information and awareness through the internet. But at this point, perhaps it's becoming more of a trap. I don't really know how to deal with all these questions, but I do think that the AI may fail in many ways, the same way that the green agenda has failed, but that there will be a lot of loss and destruction on a human scale as far as our connections with one another and the fulfillment of life along the way if we do fight back against AI or it falls through.
Well, we certainly hope so. We're just about out of time. I'll give each of you, if you guys closing thoughts and any links or anything anybody wants to promote, anything. Go ahead, Karen.
Well, I'm on Nights of the Storm every Saturday at 11 a.m. Western, 2 p.m. Eastern. I work with Angry Tiger quite often, and we did a AI discussion on his show a week ago Wednesday. It was really a great fun, and also I feel like it was really informative, and it was such an honor and a pleasure to talk with you today, Dawn, and it was great to meet Patrick. I've been following his work closely, and it's always a pleasure to talk with Angry Tiger and White Wolf. And hello to everybody in chat. Thanks for sharing, and Merry Christmas to everybody. And I hope that your niece is doing better, Dawn. I saw that she was struggling.
She's not, but it is what it is. It's taken over a lot of my time this year. But
I'm sorry to hear about
we'll
that.
probably take her something Christmas Day. I just feel awful for her. She's stuck in that hellhole. But that's a whole other thing, which I may do at some point. Angry Tiger, anything?
Yeah, prayers for your niece, brother. Prayers for your niece.
Thank you.
You could find me on Rumble. It's Angry Tigers Den on Rumble and on X. And Angry Tigers newsletter on Substack, and I'll take this opportunity to announce Karen and I will probably be doing 1 or 2 shows a month focusing on AI, the progression of it, and just trying to be as informative about it as we possibly can be. And White Wolf, Merry Christmas, brother. Merry Christmas, Karen Carpenter. Merry Christmas, Don. God bless one and all. Keep loving your hearts. Don't let them kill you. Don't let them take out your soul.
Same to you, brother. God bless us, everyone. White Wolf.
Okay, well, my thought is that the internet itself is the crown jewel of Operation Mockingbird. And basically, I see social media as a complete dumpster fire. I mean, I watch the people just fighting on social media about the most trivial things, and it's just frustrating. So
It is that, bro. You have anything? It is that. But, I mean, it's what we're left with, and this is the medium we have, because you certainly can't. We don't have access to television or radio or anything
right.
or anything
Oh,
like
I
that. So,
understand.
anything you want to promote or something or anything like that?
No, the people who know where my Substack is know where it is, and that's about as far as it goes. And
Well,
I'm
Merry
gonna
Christmas.
leave now. I'll see you later, and everybody, God bless and Merry Christmas.
God bless. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all. Karen, Angry Tiger, White Wolf, everybody in the chat room. Lots of great people. Deborah, Robin Lee, Vince, there's too many. Twisted Pistol, Raybo. There's lots of people there. I hope you didn't miss anybody. But thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Karen, and everybody else. Thanks,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I should be doing. I'm going to do a show next Friday with Salim Mansour as a great guest, and so we'll see you after Christmas. So have a great holiday, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to Night Protest. Take care.